It's my first time in Dubai and I'm so excited, and it's one of the cities that I've always wanted to visit. It's just been an honor that I've been asked to be here, and I've only been a couple of days, so I haven't really made a good assessment, but I was at a university this morning, just having a conversation with some of the students. I realized that even though UAE and Iceland are so far apart and our landscapes and our weather are very different, we see many of the similarities. I think, to draw big generalizations, but right away I see this emphasis on, close family bonds and cultures, and a love of storytelling and a love of literature that I think we both share. So maybe that's even all the better reason to be here for a literature festival, to talk about sharing these different stories. So I'm really, really excited to be here and to be talking about the nonfiction book that I wrote a couple of years ago. Sprakar is a word, it's an Icelandic word that means extraordinary women. And at least in English, I can't think of any words that we have that describe only women in a really positive way. We have lots of words that are kind of positive, but when you think about them, they somehow demean women in some way. And I love the fact, even though in Iceland it's a really obscure word and I had to kind of search it up, and the book is really, I call it a love letter to Iceland through the lens of its women. Iceland is the closest country in the world to closing the gender gap between men and women. And I wanted to explore that a little bit, but I didn't want to write like a really dry, kind of boring book on feminism. I wanted to write an inspirational book with interesting stories about interesting people, so that you learn about this country and then you learn about all these different women in the country from different backgrounds and walks of life. And you both learn something new, and then you think, wait a minute, that's the same for me as that fishing captain in Iceland. How strange. And it kind of helps us bring about our similarities a little bit, I think. So I hope the book is kind of fun and interesting and casual, and really just inspires all of us to know that working towards greater equality is something that is good for everybody. It's not a women's issue specifically, and it's got nothing to do with taking something from another group, but really making life more equal for everybody, and also inspiring people to know that we can all make a difference, that we are all role models and we all have voices that we can be using. I do have my own story in it because it's a strange story, because I'm from another country and I grew up on a farm, and my husband had never run for public office before he became president. So we were kind of thrust into the spotlight literally in a matter of 6 weeks. And so I hope it kind of makes other people think, wait, what would I do if I had this unexpected opportunity? So I want to share my own story, but my story isn't the right story or the only story, or my experience as a mom in Iceland, as an immigrant in Iceland, as an entrepreneur is maybe different from somebody else's. And so that's why it was important for me to have people who are different stories. It just shows you a different perspective and different viewpoints from me. I've always considered myself a feminist, and I like saying that, but people don't have to say that. And I think that that's important, to show to people that we all have different kind of perspectives and viewpoints, but that we all are different role models in different ways. As I get older, I also think it's so much more important that we see that. We see that not just in our political leaders, but on television, in social media, in films and sports and all of that we see that diversity. Statistics, which aren't that fun to talk about, but they back it up. The countries that are more diverse and equal are more peaceful and happier and longer living, and companies are more successful. But I just think that the more diversity we have of approaches and ideas, the more important it is. And that kind of links a little bit to my role as First Lady, because it's not really a role in any sense, right? It was my husband who ran for election. It was him who won a position that is defined in the Constitution as what you do. There isn't a role for the spouse. And yet there kind of is. There's these expectations, there's these ideas of what you should do and how you should behave. I consider it such a privilege and an honor to serve in this role, but I also wanted a little bit to kind of confound the expectations. I thought, just because I'm a woman whose husband is leader doesn't mean that I necessarily fit into a certain role of my interest or what I'm going to do. And my whole existence isn't to prop up his genius. I'm very, very proud of him, and I'm very proud of what he's done. But I wouldn't say being his wife is my main characteristic as a human. And so I hope that the message there comes through as well, to remind people that we all have our own unique voices, and we can kind of use these opportunities we have in life, or we can squander them. I probably It's that I accept that I can't do everything perfectly. That one, I can't do everything, and two, I can't do it all perfect. I can't really do anything perfectly. I can do as well as I can, but I think that to broadly generalize, maybe especially as women, there's a lot of pressure from society to be perfect at everything, to be successful at our very challenging, very busy jobs, to look gorgeous all the time, to have children who never have runny noses and are perfectly pressed and never complain and are never on their devices, to have a six-pack, to have a home that is perfectly tidy and home make food, and no one can do that. What I don't want to do is spend more time regretting why I couldn't manage all of these other things, because I think that emotional energy that we spend is not a good use of our time. So that's what I try to remember, is not to have regrets and to feel comfortable with the decisions that I have made. And to also try to say that it's not, on social media, we paint such a portrait. I posted all these things that I'm doing on social media too, but I don't post, I'm so tired this morning and here I am in my sweatsuit. And we have to remember that we all have kind of multifaceted lives. What we see online all the time, we kind of have to put too much pressure on ourselves for some of these things. We have to, I'm going to go to an event next week. I'll probably be wearing the same outfit, and that's just how that goes, because regular people rewear their clothes for things, So that's how it is.